Alright guys, what's going on? This is Otter here. Hi, this is the first time I think I've got my webcam set up properly, so you can see my very entertaining face as I do the broadcasts. That's called Canadian humor. Over here we've got Bretonnia. On the other side we've got myself playing Dark Elves. So I've been not doing ladder for a little while because I've just been traveling and stuff, but I figured today I get back into it and see if I can hold my own. And a match against Bretonnia is a lovely way to do it. I usually like these games a lot because they're very fluid and a lot of fun. So I figured I'd do something a little bit different for this matchup. I took a flying Helibron on the Manticore because I figured Bretonians, they like to take their flying lords, and Helibron can pretty much duel anyone in the air, and I wasn't too concerned about Bretonian shooting. I mean, they can sometimes have, peasant archers, but let's be real, they're peasants, so not a big deal. And they don't have too much armor pen. I know Manticore's only, it still showed here, they only have 45 armor pen, but sorry, only 45 armor on Helibron, so she's still really glass cannon on her Manticore. But it's not like high elf archers or Empire handgunners or things like that could really kick out some damage. So two Feral Manticores to just support Helibron in fighting whatever she needs to duel. Some Harpies to mock up some like the Bretonnian archers, just to buy her some time to actually do some work. Cold One Knights to hold the back line of my infantry, prevent any cycle charging, and then some Bleak Swords, Sisters of Slaughter, and one unit of Witch Elves in the back, because just for fun, they can pin stuff and do pretty well against almost all Bretonnian infantry. So I guessed right. My opponent brought Luan Kerr on a flying mount, and with no aerial support, so no Pegasus Knights, nothing like that. So that was great news for me. I knew that if I fought him in the air, he was gonna take a beating, which meant that he couldn't, disrupt my approach, and he'd have to stay close to his archers and his Grail Knights in order to get their support. There's also Damsel of Life on foot, 3 trebuchets in the back, and then standard stuff from the Bretonnians. So rambled enough. Let's press play here. So what you're going to see on the initial approach is the Bleak Swords are just going to, actually I messed up my micro a little bit, but what I was trying to do is I was trying to see the range of the trebuchet and square up my army outside of the range of the trebuchet before moving in. So what you'll see a lot of players do is they'll set a formation and maybe they'll reform within range of the trebuchet. I wanted to make sure I set up outside of the trebuchet range, squared up my army, and then approach. Now, what I want to highlight in this battle, and I think something that was really important, was shadowing. And this is something that you'll see me do in a lot of the games that I play. So there's Grail Knights deployed on the left side with Luan Kerr. And if you look at the Bretonnian damage potential, this is where their killing power is, right here. So because his stuff is faster than my stuff, what I need to do is I need to shadow and use my cavalry defensively. So if he rotates his cavalry and Luan Kerr to the other side, I'm going to rotate my cavalry and my flyers to the other side. I don't need to chase them. I just need to prevent them from coming in and doing their work when they want to do it. Because what my opponent wants to do, he wants to move that side and attack the far flank. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move to this side and just deny it, right? Whenever he comes in here, I'm going to go and just countercharge him. And I'm going to trust that my Bleak Swords, my Witch Elves, are going to cut up whatever is in the front line here, because I know that they have, the killing power to actually put a world of pain on the Bretonnians. So I do a little bit of dodging with these Sisters of Slaughter, just baiting out some ammo. I try and avoid some of the shots. I'm only going to have limited success with that, but anything helps. And I wanted to make sure that my Bleak Swords were engaged before I fully commit the Sisters of Slaughter. So anyways, I mean, again, the important part here is where are the Grail Knights, where's Luan Kerr, and where's my cavalry, and you'll see that it's always squared up to where they are. In the back also is the Damsel of Life. He's tried to keep the Damsel of Life close to Luan Kerr in order to support them. So here I see my opponent pulls up the Grail Knights. He's looking for an opportunity to attack, but everywhere they go, I'm going to be following with my Cold One Knights. And the pressure is basically mounting on him, right? Because he has to be able to, he hasn't been able to disrupt my approach at all with cycle charges. And he's running out of time because the Bleak Swords are going to eventually cut through these Spear and Arms. And once that happens, I'm going to be right into his archer line. So I did see that because he rotated over with the 2 units of cav, I had an opportunity to get a pick in on the Damsel of Life. So for me, that's a priority target. I would much rather attack the Damsel of Life than to attack Luan Kur, because the Damsel of Life is much easier to kill. So I do get that charge on, and I will send one of my Manticores to basically escort him out. Fortunately, Hellebrand is able to escape from the Grail Knight pin. I pull her through the Trebuchet because the positioning of the 2 trebuchets will prevent the knights from fully surrounding her. And I did send in 1 unit of Grail Knights to basically hold the line. So now the Bleak Swords have broken off a couple of spear units, and I'm going to start making my way into their back line. The Sisters of Slaughter cut up these units of spears as well. So things are starting to look up. I know balance bar is in the favor of my opponent. This often happens for Dark Elves at the beginning of the game. The balance bar will favor your opponent because of the pressure of artillery damage, but as the match goes on, hopefully you can pull the balance bar back in your favor. So it's a little stressful playing Dark Elves at the start, but it usually pans up. So now here's the engagement that I was looking for. Crone Hellebrand comes in on Luan Kur, and she's going to go really toe-to-toe with him and hit him in the back while he gets pinned by these Cold One Knights. I do drop the Gaze of Cain because I have him on the ground, so that's going to proc, and I'm going to try and screen off the units of archers that are nearby, and that could potentially turn in on the fight and change the balance bar. So I am able to break off Luan Kur. Remember that the Lore of Life caster is already gone. There's the Manticore that had escorted her off, and I'm sure he'll be coming back shortly. And meanwhile, I use the Sorceress of Shadow to enfeebling foe, the Grail Knights. So basically, I'm just trying to prevent him from breaking through over here while the rest of the damage is being done. And at this point, my opponent surrenders because he knows that he's not going to win with those 2 units of Grail Knights alone. So, fun match. What I would say is what worked out well for me, it was just shadowing with the Cold One Knights and just trusting that my front line was going to cut through the chaff of their front line. Hellebrand was an absolute monster against Luan Kur. She has 1 kill. That's funny. I don't know. Maybe it was Luan Kur. And the Sorceress of Shadow, I mean, she can make Crone Hellebrand an absolutely fearsome duelist. And she also, you know, was able to debuff the Grail Knights for a little bit. For my opponent, I think 3 trebuchets, Blessed Trebuchets, is maybe a little bit heavy because you really rely on disrupting your opponent's approach in order to have time for them to fire. And then maybe having some lower tier cavalry could have been really helpful for them. Either some skirmishers to give him some mobile pressure, or maybe some yeomen or Knights of the Realm, or even just regular errant knights. Anything to maybe interrupt or go a little bit wider. Sometimes taking a fight is a good idea, even if you're gonna lose, if it buys time for your other more important things to do work. In this case, the Blessed Field Trebuchets. And Grail Knights are a bit too expensive to be just disposable tar pits. But if you go to the lower end of the spectrum, the Bretonnian Cav, let's say you pinned with some Knights Errant and then pitched in the Blessed Field Trebuchet rocks on the Cold One Knights, I mean, then maybe you're trading upwards. So just something to think about. And thanks to my opponent for the game, and catch you around. Bye.